5 years of devotion. I hung up my chef's coat to play house husband, happy to be the supporting actor in her life. But at her company's victory gala, she linked arms with her director, laughed, and introduced me to the room. Oh, him? He's just a distant cousin visiting from out of town. At that moment, the roar of laughter from the crowd hurt more than 1,000 needles piercing my heart. The lights of the banquet hall were blindingly bright. Victoria Sterling stood in the center of the crowd wearing a haute couture gown, looking like a proud princess. The man beside her was Julian Thorne, the company's director, young, successful, wearing a watch that cost more than a down payment on a house back in my hometown. And me? I was wearing a t-shirt washed until it was faded and a pair of jeans, clutching the thermos she had forgotten to bring. Inside was the artisanal bone broth I had spent 3 hours simmering, worried that the alcohol would upset her stomach. I stood there like a clown, completely out of place in this gilded palace. Cousin. The word floated effortlessly from her lips, but it landed like a boulder, crushing the breath out of me. The people around us, the elites in their tailored suits, paused for a second before erupting into polite but mocking laughter. That laughter was filled with amusement and unconcealed contempt. I saw a female colleague whisper something in Victoria's ear. Victoria covered her mouth and giggled, her peripheral vision sweeping over me with a sense of justified superiority. 5 years of a relationship, from the purest love on our college campus to her entry into the corporate world, I had given up my career in the kitchen to focus on taking care of her. I thought we were building a future together. It turned out that in her future, I was just an embarrassing distant cousin. My heart turned to ice in that instant. I didn't go in. I turned around and gently placed the heavy thermos next to the trash can at the entrance. Then I walked away. No looking back, no hesitation. I returned to our home, the high-end apartment she rented. Every piece of furniture here was chosen by her, yet every corner held the traces of my cleaning. I opened the closet. My belongings were pitifully few. A few t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, and a suit I bought for her graduation ceremony. I didn't take the clothes. I only took my phone, ID, and wallet. On the desk sat a picture frame with a photo of us from college. In the photo, her smile was brilliant, and my eyes were full of her. I placed the frame face down on the table. Then, I took my own key from the console table in the entryway. The moment I closed the door, I heard the meow of Dumpling, the cat we raised together. My heart still stung, but I didn't look back. Walking out of the complex, the night wind hit my face, biting and cold. I took out my phone and went to work. Blocked Victoria's number. Unfriended her on social media. Exited all our shared group chats. My Instagram? I hadn't posted in ages because she said my life was too boring and embarrassing to share. After doing all this, I felt the whole world go quiet. I called my only close buddy, Mike Russo. Mikey, I'm out. Mike paused on the other end, then exploded. Holy shit. You finally came to your senses? Where are you? I'm coming to get you. The usual spot. That barbecue joint by the alley. You got it, hold tight. Half an hour later, Mike pulled up in his beat-up Ford van. Seeing me, he didn't say a word. He just grabbed 2 beers from the back and handed me one. What happened? What triggered it today? I didn't speak. I tipped my head back and downed a huge gulp of beer. The ice-cold liquid slid down my throat, but it couldn't extinguish the fire in my heart. Today was her company gala. She told everyone I was her cousin. My voice was calm, like I was telling someone else's story. Mike slammed his beer bottle onto the table with a bang, startling the surrounding customers. Fuck that. That woman is absolute trash. Caleb, you're a damn idiot. I told you ages ago she was just using you as a live-in maid. You wouldn't believe me. I gave a bitter smile. Yeah, I was an idiot. I've been stupid for 5 years. It was time to wake up. So, what's the plan? Mike's anger faded into worry. I looked at the skewers sizzling on the grill, the grease popping. Suddenly, I felt like this was what real life smelled like. Mikey, do you remember what I used to do? Duh. You were a sous chef at a 5-star hotel. If it weren't for her, you'd probably be an executive chef by now. I want to pick up the skillet again. Mike's eyes lit up. Oh yeah, screw it. Let's open a little spot ourselves. I'll be your busboy. I shook my head. Let's start with a food stall. From scratch. That night, Mike and I drank a lot. I didn't cry. Not a single tear. It was just that a place in my heart felt empty. But another place felt like it was finally being filled. The next morning, using the few $1,000s I had left, I rented a studio apartment in a rougher part of town. By afternoon, I went to a secondhand kitchen supply market and scored a set of equipment. 3 days later, in an unassuming night market on the other side of Chicago, a small stall named Vance's Skillet quietly opened for business. As for Victoria, she was probably still waiting for her cousin to finish his tantrum and crawl back home. When Victoria returned home, it was already 1:00 a.m. She had drunk quite a bit, her head was spinning, and she kicked off her high heels, habitually calling out, "Caleb, I'm back. Give me some honey water." The living room was pitch black. No one answered. She frowned, feeling a little annoyed. "Caleb? Throwing a tantrum again?" She fumbled to turn on the lights. Under the harsh glare, the room was empty and terrifyingly quiet. Dumpling ran out of the bedroom, circling her legs and meowing urgently. It sounded anxious. Victoria finally realized something was wrong. Kayla wasn't there. The food on the table had long since gone cold, covered by a mesh food tent. Her annoyance turned into agitation. "Really?" Over a joke, she muttered, pulling out her phone to call Caleb. The dialer screen displayed. "The number you have dialed is not in service." She froze. "Not in service? How is that possible?" She opened iMessage, wanting to send a text to demand an explanation. "Caleb, what is the meaning of this?" She hit send. The message bubble turned green, then displayed, "Not delivered." She tried WhatsApp. A red exclamation mark popped up. Victoria was completely stunned. Blocked? Deleted? How dare he? A wave of nameless anger surged up instantly. She felt her authority had been challenged. This man had always been submissive to her, obeying every word. If she told him to go east, he wouldn't dare go west. For 5 years, he hadn't even spoken a harsh word to her. Did he eat a lion's heart for courage today? Fine, growing a backbone, are we? Victoria sneered, tossing her phone onto the sofa. "I want to see how long you can last." She was certain that without her, Caleb couldn't survive. He had no job, no social circle, and probably couldn't even scrape together $500. Within 3 days, he would definitely come wagging his tail, begging her to take him back. Thinking of this, Victoria felt a bit better. She poured herself a glass of water, drank it, and lay exhaustedly on the sofa. She woke up the next morning starving. Opening her eyes, the house was silent. No familiar smell of breakfast, no sight of Caleb moving lightly to prepare everything. She finally remembered Caleb had run away from home. The agitation returned. She opened the fridge. It was stuffed with fresh ingredients Caleb had bought 2 days ago. But she couldn't even fry an egg. In the end, she ordered delivery. Arriving at the office, she was distracted all day. Before, no matter how busy or tired she was, she would receive timed messages from Caleb. "Vicky, remember to hydrate. Don't eat anything too greasy for lunch. It's bad for your stomach. It's 3 p.m. Stand up and stretch. Look out the window." She used to find these messages annoying, like shackles. But today, when her phone was as quiet as a brick, she felt a hollow emptiness. It was as if something was missing from her life, making her uncomfortable all over. In the afternoon, a critical PowerPoint presentation had a glitch. The data models wouldn't align. Previously, Caleb handled these things for her. Although he didn't have a fancy degree, he was exceptionally sensitive to data and logic and could spot the problem at a glance. She grabbed her hair in frustration, habitually wanted to send the file to Caleb. Then she remembered they were no longer connected. "Damn it," she cursed under her breath. All day, she was in a state of anxiety. Work wasn't going well, and her life was a mess. Returning home that night, she was greeted by the cold darkness and Dumpling's mournful cries. The litter box was full, emitting a foul odor. The food and water bowls were empty. Victoria realized Dumpling had always been Caleb's responsibility. She frantically changed the litter and poured food, getting dust on her hands and nearly retching. Looking at the messy room, the unwashed dishes piled in the sink, and the wrinkled clothes she was wearing from yesterday, Victoria felt for the first time just how difficult life was without Caleb. This was no longer the life she knew. 2 days passed. Still no news from Caleb. Victoria began to panic. She was no longer the high and mighty queen. She started getting restless. She messaged him on every social media app, but it was like throwing stones into the ocean. She even swallowed her pride and asked Mike Russo. Mike replied on text, "Director Sterling, you still remember Caleb? Wasn't he your cousin? Your cousin went back to the country to farm dirt. Don't worry your pretty little head about him." After saying that, Mike blocked her too. Victoria looked at her phone, trembling with rage. But mostly, it was a panic she had never felt before. Caleb seemed to be truly disappearing from her world. This realization made her feel like she had fallen into an ice cave. Meanwhile, the smoke and fire of the night market were the best comfort for the soul. My Vance's skillet stall was doing better than I imagined. I didn't use any flashy gimmicks, just a few simple items: golden fried rice, spicy chili crisp beef rice, and the classic house special. But I didn't skimp on ingredients. The eggs were organic pasture-raised, the rice was top-tier jasmine, and the oil was non-GMO. The key was my technique. The toss, the heat control, the seasoning, these things were carved into my bones. A ladle of oil into the wok, pour in the egg wash, scramble it quickly. Before the golden curds fully set, dump in the day-old rice. High heat, fast stir-fry, using the back of the ladle to separate every grain, coating each one evenly in egg. Finally, a scatter of scallions, a few tosses of the wok, and that aroma just exploded into the air. Nearby college students and white-collar workers working overtime quickly became my regulars. Boss, 1 golden fried rice. Add an extra egg. Hey, handsome chef, closing up early today? This rice is better than the stuff at the 5-star hotel downtown. Whenever I heard these words, I felt grounded. This feeling of being needed, of being recognized, didn't come from a specific person, but from my own hands and labor. This feeling was 10,000 times more precious than a cheap, "You're so good" from Victoria. Mike came to help whenever he had time. While collecting money, he'd shake his head in amazement. "Caleb, you're a beast. It's only been half a month, and you're making more than my monthly salary." I smiled and handed him a packed container of rice. "Eat your food." "By the way," Mike said, gnawing on a drumstick and speaking with his mouth full, "that woman looked for me 2 days ago." My hand, tossing the wok, paused for a microsecond before returning to normal rhythm. "What did she say?" "What else?" "Asking where you were." "I roasted her and blocked her. Felt damn good." I responded faintly, no ripples in my heart. "Do you think she regrets it now?" Mike asked, gloating. "Regret what?" I asked back. "Regret losing a free butler, or regret that there's no one to clean up her messes?" Mike froze, then laughed loudly. "You're right. People like her only love themselves. She doesn't regret hurting you. She regrets that her life is inconvenient now." Exactly. I knew Victoria too well. She was exquisite, self-interested, and always put her own benefits first. I used to think that was ambition. Now I understood it was selfishness. After closing the stall, I rode my second-hand e-bike back to my tiny studio. The room was small but clean. I showered, lay in bed, and scrolled through my phone. I saw a post from Victoria on a mutual friend's feed who I hadn't blocked yet. It was the first time in 5 years she mentioned me indirectly. 5 years. It turns out human hearts change. You only realize how precious some things are after you lose them. Below was a photo of our cat, Dumpling, looking listless. In the comments, her colleagues and friends were comforting her. "Vicky, what's wrong? Fight with a boyfriend? Men. Just sweet talk them and they'll come back. Is it that, cousin?" "Haha." Victoria replied to the one who said cousin. "Don't talk nonsense." 3 words. Didn't admit it, didn't deny it. Looking at that post, I just found it laughable. If you knew this would happen, why act that way before? Why pretend to be deep now? Why play the chasing the wife game? I wasn't an audience member, and I certainly wasn't an actor anymore. I closed the app, opened a culinary app, and started researching new recipes. My new life had just begun. I had no time to waste on the past. Another week passed. My business was booming, with people even driving from far away just for a bowl of rice. That night, as I was working in full swing, a familiar yet strange figure appeared in front of my stall. It was Victoria. She was thinner and haggard. No makeup. Wearing ordinary casual clothes. She looked like a completely different person from the glamorous woman in my memory. She just stood there, her eyes red, watching me skillfully toss the wok, pack orders, and take cash. Customers came and went around her, no one noticing this lost soul. I saw her, but I pretended I didn't. "Next, what can I get you?" I shouted to a girl behind her. Victoria's body swayed, her lips moving as if she wanted to speak. The girl ordered rice. I took the money and started cooking. Throughout the process, my hands didn't tremble once, my eyes didn't stray. I was like an emotionless cooking machine. Victoria stood there the whole time, watching me bustle about, watching me joke and laugh with other customers. Her expression shifted from initial shock and disbelief to pain and pleading. It wasn't until I was preparing to close up that she gathered the courage to walk up. "Caleb." Her voice was hoarse, carrying a sob. I looked up, meeting her eyes directly for the first time. "Can I help you?" My tone was as calm as if I were asking a stranger. Those 4 words caused her to break down instantly. Tears streamed down her face. How can you treat me like this?" She choked out. "Why won't you reply to my messages or answer my calls? Do you know I've been looking for you like crazy?" I wiped down the counter and said indifferently, "Director Sterling, we have no relationship anymore. Why are you looking for me?" "No relationship?" She looked like she heard the biggest joke in the world. 5 years of feelings, and you say they're gone just like that. The 5-year housekeeping contract expired, that's all. I stopped my work and looked at her. "Now I'm off duty." Her face went pale, and she took a step back. "I didn't treat you like a housekeeper. I love you, Caleb." "Love me?" I laughed. Love me so much you told your colleagues I was your cousin? Love me so much you took every sacrifice I made for granted? Victoria, don't make it sound so pretty. You don't deserve that word. She cried harder. I know I was wrong. That time was my fault. I apologize. Come back with me, okay? Dumpling misses you too. Dumpling? I scoffed. You're using the cat to blackmail me? Victoria, you haven't changed a bit. You only ever know how to exploit people's soft spots. I'm not. Whether you are or not, you know in your heart. I packed the last of my things and pushed the cart, preparing to leave. Don't come looking for me again. I don't want to see you. I walked past her without a shred of lingering affection. Behind me came her heart-wrenching scream. Caleb, you can't treat me like this. Come back. I didn't look back. Some roads, once taken, allow for no return. Caleb's indifference was like an ice-dipped knife, stabbing viciously into Victoria's heart. She watched his retreating figure, that back she once knew so well, now feeling so strange it terrified her. She thought that as long as she found him, lowered her head, and softened her voice, he would soften his heart and return to her side as he had countless times before. She was wrong. Dead wrong. She returned home dazed, the apartment still a disaster zone. For the past half-month, she had been living in a landfill. Take-out boxes piled into a small mountain, dirty clothes strewn everywhere. She couldn't take it anymore. She squatted on the floor and wailed like a helpless child. While crying, she started cleaning the house. This was the first time she had lifted a finger to clean since Caleb left. She mimicked Caleb's way of sorting trash, wiping tables, mopping floors. Every movement was clumsy and awkward. When she hauled out 5 full bags of trash, she collapsed on the floor in exhaustion. Only then did she understand how much effort it took to maintain the pristine appearance of this home. And Caleb had done this silently for 5 years. She opened the fridge, wanted to find something to eat, but saw only rotting vegetables. She remembered Caleb. He could always perform magic with these ordinary ingredients, creating delicious meals that amazed her. Her stomach churned violently, and she rushed to the bathroom, vomiting until she was empty. That night, she had a dream. In the dream, she was back in college. She was sick, and Caleb carried her on his back through the snow for over half an hour to find a clinic that was still open. His back was warm and steady. On her birthday, Caleb used money earned from part-time jobs to buy her a dress she had been talking about for ages. He himself was wearing sneakers with soles that were peeling off. He smiled like a fool. Scene after scene, all the good things about him that she had nearly forgotten. Victoria woke up crying. The sky hadn't brightened yet. Outside the window was pitch black. She grabbed her phone and dialed Caleb's old number like a maniac. I'm sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service. The cold, automated voice reminded her again and again that she had truly lost him. The next day, Victoria went to the office with massive dark circles under her eyes. She was like a wandering ghost, making mistakes in everything. Julian slammed a report onto her desk. Victoria, what is wrong with you lately? Your head is in the clouds. How can you mess up such simple data? If you don't want to work here, just say so. Victoria looked at Julian's handsome but cold face and suddenly felt incredibly disgusted. It was for this man, for the glamorous world he represented, that she had pushed Caleb away. But now, this world was starting to reject her too. I'm sorry, Director Thorne. I'll fix it immediately. She spoke humbly. You'd better. Julian scoffed and turned away. Colleagues around her cast gloating glances. She knew that since the gala, many people had been gossiping behind her back, saying she dumped her cousin to climb the social ladder. Now watching her get chewed out by Julian, they were undoubtedly thrilled. Victoria bit her lip, forcing back her tears. She couldn't lose. She had to prove to everyone that without Caleb, she could live just fine. She would live even better than before. From that day on, Victoria acted like a different person. She worked desperately, staying late every night. She wanted to numb herself with work, to fill the void left by Caleb. She started learning to cook, though the results were disastrous. She started taking care of Dumpling herself, though she was often flustered. She tried hard to pull her life back on track, to prove she could be independent. But the more she did this, the more frequently she thought of Caleb. Seeing the kitchen, she thought of Caleb's back in an apron. Seeing the TV, she remembered the nights they curled up on the sofa binge-watching shows. Even looking at Dumpling, she remembered Caleb holding the cat with a gentle expression. Caleb's shadow permeated every corner of her life, inescapable. She realized then that it wasn't just that she couldn't leave him, but that her life had long been molded by him into its current shape. Her so-called independence was just an imitation of life when he was there. A month later, An opportunity arose for a 3-month exchange program at a branch office in another city. Everyone thought it was a terrible assignment. No one wanted to go. Victoria Valentir. She wanted to leave this city. She felt that as long as she left here, she could escape Caleb's shadow. However, she was wrong again. Changing locations didn't hurt business. In fact, it stayed as good as ever. I moved the Vance's skillet stall to the vicinity of University Town. There were more young people here, more energy. Mike saw my business was stable and urged me to rent a storefront. With your skills, a stall is a waste of talent. Rent a small frontage, make it clean, and business will be even hotter than now. I was tempted. I had saved some money, and with Mike's investment, I secured a 300-square-foot shop on the back street of University Village. I named the shop Vance's Bistro. Besides fried rice, I added a few signature dishes: spicy julienne potatoes, shredded pork and garlic sauce, mapo tofu. All comfort foods, but the flavors were authentically gourmet. On opening day, the shop was packed. Many were my regulars from stall days. "Boss, congrats on opening. No more braving the cold wind. This is great." I wore my apron, sweating in the kitchen, but my heart was filled with unprecedented satisfaction. This shop was built by my own hands. It was the starting point of my new life. It was in my little bistro that I met Elena. Elena Brooks was an art teacher at the nearby university. True to her name, she was gentle and soft-spoken. She was a regular at our shop. Unlike other girls who loved the fried rice, she ordered a bowl of white rice and a plate of spicy julienne potatoes every time. She said my potatoes tasted like her grandmother's cooking. Over time, we got to know each other. She would chat with me about interesting things at school, about her mischievous and cute students. I would share my thoughts on developing new dishes. Talking to her was comfortable and relaxing. She never asked about my past or pried into my private affairs. She just treated me as a chef who cooked with heart. One day, close to closing time, she rushed in. She looked exhausted, her complexion pale. "Professor Brooks, why so late today?" I serve her a plate of potatoes fresh from the wok and added a bowl of rib soup. "The soup is on the house. Drink some to warm your stomach." She froze, looking up at me, something crystalline shimmering in her eyes. "Thank you, Caleb," she whispered. That day she told me her students were participating in an important art exhibition, but the artwork had an accident during transport. She had spent the whole day fixing it. "It's all my fault for not checking beforehand." She blamed herself. How can you blame yourself? Accidents happen. I comforted her. As long as everyone is safe, the art can be painted again. She looked at me and suddenly smiled. "Caleb, you're so good." The same words, spoken by her, felt completely different from when Victoria said them. Victoria's "you're so good" was a rightful demand. Elena's "you're so good" was heartfelt gratitude. In that moment, I felt a flutter in my heart. Victoria's 3 months away felt like a prison sentence. She thought changing her environment would help her forget Caleb, but it had the opposite effect. A strange city, strange colleagues, a strange bed. Whenever the night was quiet, the loneliness of being abandoned by the whole world would drown her like a tidal wave. She began frantically searching online for anything about Caleb. She found a clue in Mike Russo's old social media posts. A photo of Mike dining with friends had a blurry stall in the background with a sign that seemed to read Vance's. Like clutching a life straw, she immediately sent the photo to friends back home, asking them to help locate it. 3 months later, when she dragged her exhausted body and mind back to the familiar city, a friend gave her an address. University Village Backstreet, Vance's Bistro. Victoria's heart pounded wildly. She didn't even go home. She took a cab straight there. The car stopped at the intersection, and she saw the small storefront from a distance. There was a long line at the door. Business was booming. Through the glass window, she saw that familiar figure. He was wearing an apron, busy at the stove, a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. The lines of his profile were more determined than before. He was thinner and had a tan, but he looked more spirited and charismatic than ever before. Just then, a girl walked out of the kitchen carrying a tray, saying something to him with a smile. He looked up and smiled back. That smile was something Victoria had never seen, a genuine, relaxed, brilliant smile. Victoria's heart felt like it had been stabbed viciously. She didn't know the girl, but she could see there was a tacit understanding and warmth between them that she and Caleb never had. Victoria didn't dare go in. Like a thief, she hid in the shadows of the street corner, watching everything happening in the shop. She saw the girl helping him greet customers, helping him clear tables. She saw him naturally take a tray from the girl's hand and wipe the sweat from the girl's face with a towel. Their interaction was so natural, so intimate. It turned out he wasn't incapable of smiling. He just didn't smile at her. It turned out he wasn't incapable of gentleness. His gentleness just didn't belong to her. Victoria felt her world collapse completely in this moment. She had always thought Caleb couldn't live without her. She always thought she was the center of his world, his only light. Now she discovered that without her, he lived better. He had his own career, a new life, and even a new love. And her. She had thrown away the most precious thing for an illusionary future. She had become a massive joke. The sky gradually darkened. The little shop closed. Caleb and the girl locked the door together and walked side by side under the streetlights. Their shadows were stretched long, very long. They looked so perfect together. Victoria squatted on the ground, unable to hold it back any longer, and wept aloud. She cried for her blindness, cried for her stupidity. But it was all too late. My relationship with Elena developed naturally. Neither of us chased the other aggressively, but our hearts grew closer. I liked watching her paint. She possessed a quiet strength. She liked eating my cooking. She said my food tasted like home. 6 months later, on a very ordinary evening, I walked her downstairs to her dormitory. She suddenly stopped and said to me, "Caleb, do you want to be with me?" I was stunned. Looking at her sparkling eyes, I was a bit at a loss. To be honest, I was a little afraid. The last relationship had exhausted almost all my passion and courage. I was afraid of repeating the same mistakes, afraid of getting hurt again. Elena seemed to see through my thoughts. She said softly, "It's okay. You don't have to answer me right away. I just want you to know how I feel. I like you, not because your food is delicious, nor because you treat me well, just, I like you as a person. I won't treat you like others did," she added, her voice very soft. My heart was struck heavily. I knew she was referring to Victoria. Mike, the blabbermouth, must have told her something. Looking at her sincere face, I suddenly felt that missing out on this wonderful person in front of me because of someone unworthy from the past would be the true foolishness. I took a deep breath and nodded. Okay. Elena smiled. That smile, like the warm sun in winter, instantly dispelled all the haze in my heart. After we got together, life didn't change much, except my bistro had a fixed lady boss. She helped me design the menu and decorated the shop to be warm and elegant. My life also gained a splash of bright color. I thought days would pass in this plain and happy way, until I received a call from a stranger. On the other end was an aged and exhausted voice. Is this Caleb?" I paused. The voice was somewhat familiar. "I am. Who is this?" "I am Victoria's mother." My heart sank. "Mrs. Sterling, hello. Is something wrong?" My tone unconsciously turned cold. There was a long silence on the other end, followed by suppressed sobbing. "Caleb, I'm begging you, please come see Vicky. She's not doing well." I frowned. "Mrs. Sterling, what do you mean? What happened to her?" Ever since she came back from out of town, she hasn't been right. She won't eat or drink, locks herself in her room all day. A few days ago, she slit her wrists." The spatula in my hand fell to the ground with a clang. "We got her to the hospital and saved her, but she refuses to cooperate with treatment. The doctor says she has severe depression. If this goes on, she'll be ruined. Every day, she just chants your name. Caleb, I know Vicky wronged you, but for the sake of us watching you grow up, please come see her, persuade her, okay? I'm begging you on my knees." Over the phone came a thump. I could imagine a helpless mother kneeling on the ground, begging bitterly. My heart was in chaos. I hated Victoria, hated her selfishness, hated her heartlessness. But her parents were innocent. They had treated me well in the past. I hung up the phone and sat in a chair, saying nothing. Elena walked over and gently held my hand. "What's wrong?" I told her the situation. After listening, she didn't speak, just looked at me quietly. "I want to go take a look." I said the words with difficulty. Not for Victoria, but for her pitiful parents, and to put a true period on those dead 5 years. Elena nodded. "I'll go with you." Returning to that familiar city felt like a lifetime had passed. Every street here held footprints of Victoria and me. But now, things were different and people had changed. In the hospital corridor, I met Victoria's parents. They were much older than I remembered, temples gray, faces full of worry. Seeing me, Mrs. Sterling's tears poured out instantly. She grabbed my hand as if grabbing the last lifeline. "Caleb, you finally came. Go see her quickly." I nodded, my heart heavy. Elena followed behind me, gently patting my back, giving me an encouraging look. The ward door opened, and a strong smell of disinfectant hit my face. Victoria lay on the hospital bed, her face as pale as paper, so thin she was out of shape. Her wrist was wrapped in thick gauze, and she had no vitality, like a flower about to wither. Hearing the door open, she slowly turned her head. When she saw me, a trace of light burst into those hollow eyes. "Caleb." Her voice was as weak as a mosquito's buzz. I walked to the bedside, looked at her, and felt a mix of emotions. "You came. You finally agreed to see me." She struggled to sit up, tears sliding down the corners of her eyes. I didn't help her. I just looked at her calmly. "Victoria, why do this to yourself?" "I was wrong. I know I was wrong," she cried. "Caleb, forgive me, okay? Let's start over. I will never treat you like that again." I shook my head. "Victoria, you don't love me. You're just unwilling to lose. You're unwilling to lose someone who is submissive to you. You're unwilling to see that I live better without you. Your love is possession, control, selfishness." "No, it's not," she retorted excitedly, pulling the wound on her wrist, gasping in pain. "Take a good look at yourself right now. You pointed ahead. Do you think you can keep me by self-harming, by hurting yourself? Do you think your parents' tears can become a tool to emotionally blackmail me? Victoria, you're wrong. This only makes me feel that you are pathetic. It also makes me rejoice even more that leaving you was the correct decision." Every word I said was like a knife plunging into her already riddled heart. She stared at me blankly, the color draining from her face bit by bit. "No, you can't treat me like this," she muttered. "You said you would love me forever." "Yes, I said that, I admitted. But the Caleb who said he would love you forever died the moment you told everyone I was your cousin. Standing in front of you now is a brand new Caleb. He has his own career, someone he loves, and a future he wants to protect." As I spoke, I looked back at Elena, standing at the door. Elena gave me a faint smile. Victoria followed my gaze and saw Elena too. The expression on her face went from shock to jealousy and finally turned into utter despair. "So, you really don't want me anymore." She went limp on the bed like a puppet with its strings cut. "We never truly started." I left those words, turned around, and walked out of the ward without hesitation. Behind me came Victoria's heart-rending cries and her parents' sighs. I didn't look back. Walking out of the hospital, the sun shone on my body, warm and comforting. I felt lighter than ever before. I had finally, with my own hands, buried my past. After leaving that city, I never asked for any news about Victoria again. Elena and I returned to a life of peace and happiness. Business at Vance's Bistro got better and better, and we opened a second location. I was no longer the cook who just revolved around the stove. I started learning management and operations. Elena quit her job at the university to become my partner in everything. She handled the design and marketing, managing our brand impressively. 2 years later, we got married. The wedding was simple, held right in our own bistro. The guests were close friends and regular diners. No luxurious pageantry, but full of laughter and joy. At the wedding, Mike got drunk, hugged me, and slurred, "Caleb, you son of a gun. You finally made it through the bitterness to the sweet. Elena, sister, you have to treat him well." Elena smiled and said, "Don't worry, I will." I looked at her, my eyes moist. I felt like the happiest man in the world. 2 years after that, our daughter was born. We nicknamed her Sunny. Her arrival made our life even more complete. I made her all kinds of delicious baby food, and Elena taught her to paint. Our family of 3 lived the most ordinary, yet happiest days. I often wonder, what would it be like if I hadn't left Victoria back then? I'd probably still be that embarrassing cousin, that undignified house husband. I would have destroyed my own dreams with my own hands, smoothed away my edges, and finally turned into a greasy middle-aged man that even I hated. It was Victoria's heartlessness that enabled my rebirth. In that sense, I should even thank her. 5 years later, due to business expansion, I needed to go to a strange city for a site visit. Coincidentally, that city was the place where I had lived for 5 years. Elena was a bit worried and wanted to come with me. I smiled and refused. "Don't worry, I let go a long time ago. To me, it's just an ordinary business trip destination now." I really had let it go. There wasn't a ripple in my heart. The work went smoothly. The afternoon the work ended, I was walking alone on the street, wanted to buy a gift for Sunny. Passing a small urban park, I saw a familiar figure. It was a woman sitting on a bench, feeding a group of stray cats. She was wearing a washed-out old trench coat, her hair tied up haphazardly, her face bearing a calmness that bordered on numbness. It was Victoria. She was even more haggard than when I saw her in the hospital 5 years ago. The marks of time had climbed onto her face without mercy. She was no longer that radiant corporate elite, just a woman so ordinary she couldn't be more ordinary. I didn't go up to disturb her. As I turned to leave, she seemed to sense something and looked up. Our eyes met. Time seemed to stand still in this moment. She looked at me, her eyes filled with complex emotions. Shock, regret, pain, and a trace of resigned sorrow. She stood up, her lips moving as if she wanted to call my name, but in the end, she made no sound. I gave her a slight nod. Not forgiveness, nor reconciliation. Just the basic politeness of one stranger to another. Then, I turned and merged into the crowd. I didn't look back, but I knew she must be watching me. Walking far away, I received a text message from an unknown number. You're doing well. That's good. I wish you happiness. I looked at the message, paused, and then pressed delete. Back at the hotel, I made a video call to Elena. On the screen, Elena and Sunny were playing a game, laughing back and forth. Daddy! Daddy! Sunny screamed happily when she saw me. Sunny, be good. Did you miss Daddy? I did. Daddy, when are you coming back? Sunny wants to eat your sweet and sour ribs. Okay, Daddy will be back tomorrow to make you the best sweet and sour ribs. Looking at the smiling faces of my wife and daughter, the last speck of dust in my heart finally settled. Victoria, I wish you happiness. And I wish myself eternal happiness too. We are finally well in our respective life tracks. That is enough. Story complete.